He did play Squatt from Power Rangers, though.
That's important knowledge.
I don't think I knew that there was a fictional character named Squatt. That's a pretty powerful domain expansion I just went through. Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is still Chase.
And my name is also still David.
I thought you were about to say my name is also Chase. I was like, what is happening here?
I am also still Chase. I'm
It's
also
me.
still David. I'm both.
I'm David too. We're both one and the same.
This is Chavid and Dace here today.
Domain expansion. Chavid.
Domain
Chavid's
expansion.
Palace.
Chase David Chimera Garden.
I've watched almost a full season of Jujutsu Kaisen in the last day, so I'm all up in there right now.
Mm-hmm. It's a good show. It's a good
fun
show. Chase is going to understand all the domain expansion jokes now. It's probably going to be a strong domain expansion episode. I'm just foretelling right now.
I hope so. That'd be good. You've been making the domain expansion jokes for probably at least 6 months at this point.
I mean, it's a good joke.
It is really appealing to the broken shonen part of my brain that just wants to see somebody be like, I can't even see their movements. It's every time it hits so right.
You have to do it the right way, but man, they do it the right way in this show.
They really do. And every now and then I'll catch myself listening to someone being like, they're only using 90% of their power. And I'm so in.
Because of his binding vow, he's now using 120% of his potential.
Hey, we're not here to talk about anime. I guess we're not here to talk about anime, but
depends on the game.
We're mostly here to talk about video games.
Yes.
I suppose. Have you been playing those?
I have been.
I would love to hear about them.
Still playing Astrobot. It's very good.
Yeah.
We were talking about how it compares to a Mario the last time. I don't think it compares to Mario Odyssey. Mm-hmm. I think that game is probably at least half a tier above this one.
Yeah.
I do think it compares more favorably to a Mario Land or 3D World, 3D Land or Mario 3D World.
Yeah.
It seems more similar to those games to me, just in the way that the levels are laid out. They're more bite-sized. They're more a bunch of different platforms as opposed to a whole entire world you can go and explore in.
Yeah.
But the game is still fantastic. It's really good. I saw a video today that showed that the raindrops when they hit the ground are PlayStation button symbols.
Oh my God.
It's triangle, circle, square, X when they hit the ground. Just the love for PlayStation in this game is so exceptional, and it just oozes from it. And we're also talking last time about how Sony has not really kept mascots over the long haul, over the course of many different consoles. Besides series like Gran Turismo, they've still kept that going, but they don't have games that are driven by characters that have gone that far. And I'm wondering if Astrobot's going to be that for them, if they're going to continue on with Astrobot for the foreseeable future, just as long as it still is making fun and good and interesting games. Because it seems like Sony's never really had a big original IP that doesn't require necessarily a story or how characters develop over time. Because Uncharted, there's an end to that story, right?
Yeah.
And it's you can't just keep on trotting Nathan Drake out after he's reconciled with the fact that he's a mass murderer and has broken his marriage multiple times already.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't make sense, right? So it's just a little bit easier from a, narrative standpoint, just kind of keep pumping out Astrobot games.
I mean, it's the same thing that Mario does. You don't need an excuse for Mario to be saving Peach or wandering around and doing Odyssey stuff. It's just, that's what he's doing it. It's fine.
He's Astrobot. Keep him going.
I am curious sort of how this series develops. If this is a thing that's more of a one-off, I would kind of expect it not to be, given the sort of success of it and how it's mostly critically acclaimed. But I think that's part of the conversation we were having last week about Sony kind of having baffling decisions about not keeping this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think the fear is that we celebrate this game, it's really good, and then they close down the studio and they're no, Astrobot's dead, we're going to remaster The Last of Us 1 again.
We're going to remaster Astro's Playroom.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yes, that would be the move,
Yeah, the remasters. God. Yeah, they've really dropped the ball on making new interesting games this generation.
Or just not firing the people who work on good games.
That too. That too.
Of course, this is not how the world works, but you should just keep the people who made Ico and Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, you should just pay them for the rest of their lives. Like, they made literally some of the best video games ever. Like, let them sit in a room until inspiration strikes and let them make a video game. Until then, they just get to sit and enjoy.
There can be a different team making all the remasters, but keep the creative people there. Right? To cook up new ideas that are fun and interesting. Because like, what is it? No one wants a Days Gone remaster, isn't that what they're talking about now?
Yeah, that was a pretty strange choice.
Yeah.
I've never played Days Gone, and like, I've never felt super compelled to. And like, the owner is sort of a nut job. So like, or the like kind of main creative force behind it is a little nutty with it. And so like, it's so strange that was the game that decided to remaster. But I think it kind of points to the same attitude that I think is in my mind while I'm playing Astrobot, which is sort of a bummer. I wish I like either wasn't burdened with that existence. Like I wish Sony did better. That's it. There's no either. I just wish they did better.
Yeah, I wish they did better as well. But we'll see. Maybe the hope springs eternal, and maybe they will do better with Astrobot, because this is already the third Astrobot game.
Yeah, that is true.
Because they did the VR game as well. So keep it going.
Yeah, I hope it's a way for them to see that like it's not, you don't have to do these prestige third person shooter games all the time. Like
they're becoming kind of a trope.
Yeah, and like I think that there's obviously still like people who can do good work in those arenas, right? But like God of War, The Last of Us, I guess Days Gone if we're counting it. Horizon Zero Dawn, like all of those games are sort of in a similar vein. And like I like a lot of those games, but I like there is more out there, as evidenced by how good this game is, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, the challenge levels are so good, like the circle, triangle, whatever levels. Oh man. I'm
having a great time with them. Anytime those come up, I'm like, this is what I'm doing for the next half an hour.
Yeah, the challenge is just so perfect. It's so good. Speaking of challenge, I also beat Sekiro.
Wow, congratulations.
It happened the second time. We did it.
We did.
Feels
Joe.
good.
That was pretty quick between you getting past the area you were in last time and the end of the game.
Yeah, I just kind of powered through the end there. I beat Owl 2, Owl parentheses father.
Dad.
Daddy-o Owl. That was a tough fight. It was a really fun fight. I really enjoyed that extra little bit of content that I got to enjoy there.
Yeah.
Then just blasted through the Divine Dragon, which is not a hard fight, but like a very fun, cool fight. Which then just pretty much takes you to the end of the game, where it's just Ishin, Sword Saint Ishin, and the Hatred Demon. Hatred Demon being a optional boss.
Yeah.
But I remembered that one, like maybe kicking my ass, maybe even more than Sword Saint Ishin did. So I decided to go for that one first. Also still kicked my ass. I probably had the hardest time in the whole game with that one, because he is just, all of a sudden you're fighting a Dark Souls boss in this game where it's just like all about parrying and deflecting and timing. And now you're just like, get to the butt and hit. Just hit as much as you can, maximize damage output. And that's how you win this battle. So I do like how it's almost kind of like a nod to Dark Souls players in this game. They're like, okay, here's the Dark Souls boss, guys. Okay, we've got a big guy, and you just hit his little dingleberry on the bottom there until he's dead. So that game, that fight's a lot of fun. I love the fire effects. I love jumping away from the big explosion he does when he jumps into the sky, and then grapple hooking over and then hitting him. There's just a lot of like little hidden tricks that you learn throughout this boss fight that let you just kind of really roll over him at the end. And then of course, Sword Saint Ishin, man, that fight is so good. It's so beautiful. It gives me big Snake Eater vibes.
Totally.
That
totally
flower
see
field.
What you're saying, yeah.
But yeah, also very challenging, 4 different forms to this boss battle. So it's very much like an exercise in resource management, as well as it is like a test of your skill.
Yeah.
But man, they really just run through every single skill that you learn in this game through that fight. Like, they start off with a sword, then they go with a spear with a gun. I love deflecting the bullets in that fight, because when you deflect like all 4 in a row, you feel so cool. You feel so cool when you're deflecting bullets.
I like hadn't learned how to deal with the spear until that part of the game.
The spear is hard. The other, like the mini bosses that are the spear, like the 7 Ashina spear mini bosses, those are some of the hardest enemies in this game for me, because the spear attacks are just so sweeping and different than the sword attacks.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to look in a completely different area. But yeah, the spear is hard.
It's also just so against the muscle memory that I have learned to go directly into the spear if it's like one of the ones that you can like step on. And
the Mikiri counter.
Yeah, the kind of parry thing that you can do there. Oh man. Again, just like a decade of me rolling away for the most part in Dark Souls is like, you got to do exactly the opposite of that.
No rolling. Only step dodging in this one. And then at the very end, like you got to be able to counter the lightning. You got to do it, which is also such a hard skill in this game.
Yep.
Because you have to stop, you have to jump, deflect in midair, and then shoot it back before you hit the ground. It's kind of like basketball in a way. It's like a jump shot. Interestingly enough, right?
Yeah.
But just so fun, and you feel so accomplished at the end of it. I did not get the best ending because, oh man, I got the second best ending. I got the one where, spoilers.
Hey, it's me, Chase, after the fact. David's about to spoil the very end of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Personally, I feel like it's not that big of a deal. Like, the story's like, you know, it's fine, but it is a pretty big drop. So if you're like hungry for those Sekiro spoilers, but maybe you're one of the people who like wanted to play it, but then didn't end up getting to it or something like that, then, you know, you can skip ahead. There's chapter markers. And if you don't see the chapter markers, like, check it. That's a helpful feature that a lot of podcatchers have. And if you use one of the podcatchers that don't use chapters, like, you gotta get on that. It's so nice. I usually don't mention it, but I usually put like some pictures for the podcast chapters, and like most of them are just the like game cover, so like you're not missing out that much, but like some are a little cheeky joke every now and then, and that's fun. So give it a look. All right, I'm gonna let David say immediately what the spoiler is. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Wolf beheads himself and Kuro becomes a human.
Right.
Which probably the ending, I think, I wouldn't say most people got. Probably most people got the first ending, because this one was still hard to get because I had to go through a bunch of dialogue chains to, through to their end, and then you have to do that additional battle with Owl to get this ending. But I was looking it up online about what I had to do to get the best ending, because after you beat Sword Saint Ishin, Kuro is just on the ground, like dying, and you can be like, hey dude, what's good? And he says, give me something. I'm like, ooh, what if I just leave and like try to get the best thing possible for him and then come back? And you can just like leave him there in this field bleeding out for an indefinite amount of time. It's fine. So I looked it up, but I was already locked out of it because there's part of this where you have to like bring Kuro rice that this other person gives for him. And then you have to keep talking to him, and then he has to give you a rice ball made for this other person, take that back to that person, give that to that person. But even before that, you have to have persimmons to feed to the sick child who only becomes sick after you ask her for rice a certain amount of times. And then you have to find the dried and the fresh serpent viscera for this same child, and then go and find a dead monk and look on his body, and there's a tome on there that tells this other child how to have frozen dragon tears, and then that's how you get the good ending of the game.
Yes.
It's insane.
I looked all this up the first time and did do it, but like
you did all that.
Yeah, I've got the broken brain syndrome where I have to do the good ending if I know it exists, and it's like this is not within reason, but like it's just the burden is not on time necessarily. It's just like, did you know to do this? Yeah.
That's the thing, is that how would I know to do any of these things?
Yeah, I could have never known to do that.
Yeah. It's fun that it's in there. And like, it's my second playthrough, so I'm not annoyed.
Yeah.
But it's just a baffling decision, I think.
Yeah.
And I think one that is made with the idea that the internet exists and people can look up how to do this. Otherwise, like, I just don't think anyone would really know that to do all of this.
Yeah.
But great game otherwise. 10 out of 10. This is so good. I think if it even came out today, being a 5-year-old game, it would still feel fresh and new and amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Just an exceptional game, start to finish. Really engrossed me even again the second time, and was fun to go through. Now with my expanded knowledge of Dark Souls and FromSoft, so it was much more a less harrowing experience the first time. than the first time.
Well, expanded domain.
My domain expansion, get good. Yeah. Got good.
Got good. Yeah.
Got good. Yeah, because I remember I was even talking to Mallory about it. She was watching me play this, and she remembered this game because it's beautiful. She's like, oh yeah, I remember this game. It's really cool looking. And then I beat it the other night, and she's like, wow, that was really fast. That took you like months before. I'm like, yeah, that's true. That took me a long time to beat this game the first time I played it.
I think it like the last boss took me actual weeks. Like I had to like try it every day. And then if I like wasn't getting good, practice a little bit, but then set it down because I was like, I'm not getting better at the rate that I think I should be. Yeah. And the only thing that gets me better is like sleeping and ingesting it and thinking about it.
Solidifying those muscle memories into your hands. Yeah. The other thing I've been playing a lot of is still Kingdom Hearts 2 for an undisclosed reason. But
let me disclose the reason. We're doing a bonus episode.
Yeah, we're doing a bonus episode. It's going to be great. Yeah. It's the next one in the line of our Kingdom Hearts series.
It is. Yeah. It is.
I've just beaten I beat Pride Rock.
Okay.
That's a very fun level.
It is.
You're so fast.
I thought it was cool. Like any Kingdom Hearts level where you get to change forms or costumes, I'm like, this is cool. This is neat.
Yeah. I do like the costume changes in that one. But at the same time, I was looking at Sora and I'm like, what is off about his character design in this level? What is going on here? Like, why am I feeling off put by this? And I realize it's because he looks like he's wearing a fursuit.
It does kind of look like a fursona, doesn't it?
It does. Like I think it's the big anime eyes and like the very human looking face that moves very humanly with emotion. Yeah. I was just like, wow, didn't realize that Sora's a furry, but hey, more power to him. I ain't gonna ick someone's yum. That's fine. But it was just funny when I realized that level's great. And then also I love that in the Halloween Town level, when they go to the Christmas land, everybody's costume changes to something Christmassy. Like Donald is a snowman. Goofy, I forget what Goofy was, but Goofy was something Christmassy as well. Oh, he's a reindeer. Goofy was a reindeer. Yeah, good. But then Sora is wearing like a Christmas suit, but he still has like his goth boy eyeliner and hair underneath that he was wearing in Halloween Town. So I'm like, why is he just goth Christmas in here? Hell yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue with it too much because it looked cool, but it was just funny to see like, oh no, he just kept that vibe going.
You can take the boy out the emo. No, you can take no, you can do neither. You can't take the boy out of the emo, nor can you take the emo out of the boy.
Halloween Town, but you can't take the Halloween Town out of the boy.
Yeah. Shouts out to Taking Back Sunday. Great band.
So yeah, I'm making my way through that game. Back at Hollow Bastion now. So yeah, getting through it. It's fun.
Nice, hell yeah. So I think that's starting your like trip back through the other worlds. Like once you hit Hollow Bastion again, is like there's that sort of mid section where Goofy dies kind of.
I'm waiting for Goofy to die. It's my next thing on the menu.
It is such a bananas moment in that game. But yeah, I think once you get through that like zone, then you have to like revisit a bunch of the worlds, which 2 is definitely longer than the other ones we've played so far for the show. 3 has felt pretty long so far too, but 2 definitely feels like, wow, this is like a big game. And the revisiting is kind of a slower part for me, at least.
Just got to power through.
Yeah, got to get there.
But yeah, that's all I've been playing. Chase.
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
Largely just one game that I want to talk about.
Ooh, let's hear it.
I've been, and just real quick, this is not the game, but like I'm playing a lot of Satisfactory again. It just hit 1.0. Man, just what a wonderful video game that game is.
I like how you went from talking about Shapes to and being like, this is the best of these games. You're like, oh, no, back to Satisfactory. Straight back. The problem is that I beat Shapes. There's kind of an end to it. End to Shapes. Got it. Okay.
And like, there's some optional challenges, but I'm like, I think I need the just like raw motivation of a goal to kind of drive my play. And like once I got past the like predetermined, here's the stuff you need to do to beat the game, I was like, all right, that's probably good. It was also like I played it for like 40 hours, so it's not like that was a short game by any measure. But yeah, I was like, well, I must continue. And frankly, Shapes 2 made me a better Satisfactory player, which is kind of amazing.
It all comes back to Satisfactory.
It does. Yeah. I get to take my skills back there. And I will say, like, just comparing the two, I think if you've never played a factory game, like try Shapes 2. I think it is a lower investment and will show you if you like that kind of game or not. Because Satisfactory adds in the kind of like survival game part of it, and just the fact that you need to like personally build most of the shit is it changes kind of the dynamic there. Whereas Shapes is like you can like just copy and paste whole like miners and transformers and shit like that. Whereas in Satisfactory, you need to like actually build it. For anybody who like doesn't know what I'm talking about and hasn't been like listening to me kind of play Satisfactory over the course of the entire podcast, it's like it's a factory game, and I would say it's the factory game. I suspect somebody might disagree and say that Factorio is the factory game. But for me, this is the one. And like, it's wildly popular, is very well reviewed, and like, I think just a very good game. But it's like a survival kind of game in which the point is just to build this like big ass space elevator, and you have to like mine ore to do that and stuff like that. Well. But yeah, not to speak too much on it, because it is largely still the same game, but like, it's so much fun. It's really good in 1.0. This like essentially just came out of early access like a couple of days ago, and it's wonderful. It's incredible and fun, and I love it. And I also like think it's obviously for a lot of people. Like, it has 155,000 reviews on Steam, so it's not like this is a small game by any measure. But I think it takes a certain kind of weird part of your brain to enjoy this stuff that I fully recognize is like not for everybody. But for those out there who like it, it's fully out, and I think it's like incredible. So if you're into factory games, give that a shot, because it's fully out and great.
Yeah. Chase, has anybody had the courage yet to make a deck building roguelike factory game?
I haven't played it if they have.
Am I ever going to see you again if they make that game?
It depends on how good it is. If it's good, probably not. If it's okay, then maybe after a couple of months.
What if there's a dating sim component to it?
I'm in. I'll play it. Sight unseen. No, the to get to the main thing I want to talk about, it's really just this one game called the Plucky Squire, David.
Oh, yeah. No, I downloaded that off of PlayStation Network. I think they had it on the PSN subscription service.
Yep. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's on there. And so if anybody has that, I think that's a good way to figure out, like, do I like this game and do I want to continue? I ended up buying it on Switch just because I was like, it feels like a better place to play it for me. But like, it is on the PSN Network. So like, why not? You know?
Yeah.
So this is a game that came out pretty recently. It's by this company called All Possible Futures, and they made this game, and I think the marketing of it definitely showed like the thing about it, which is that you're in this sort of like 2D storybook kind of style game, and at some point you will come out into 3D. Like you will escape the storybook and exist in the physical space outside of the storybook. That's like the thing with it. Which was compelling to me. I think that that's really fun, and in my mind is sort of connected in a way to Fez, where it's like showing you a certain kind of game and then breaking that mold a little bit of like we're moving outside the bounds of what it means to be like a 2D game all the time, which is cool. I thought that was a really cool pitch, and I really like it, is the thing. It's good about this game.
Yeah.
So I like it a lot. I'll start with the fact that I've been seeing like kind of middling feelings about it online.
I've seen mixed things so far. Yeah.
Yes. And I think I understand the sentiment from a lot of those feelings. A lot of people are like, it's not really grabbing me in the way that I was kind of hoping, or that it's pretty simple. I've seen that complaint kind of often. And I think I agree with both of those. I think it is kind of simple. I think that they're, at least in my own head, when I saw a kind of 2D Zelda-like this with like sort of a meta twist almost, my mind connected it up to a bunch of other games. Tunic, Death's Door, Hyperlight Drifter, shit like that, where it's like all of those games are very heady and kind of challenging a lot of the time. Yeah. And pretty mechanically dense, I would say. And I think that is not what this game is doing. Like it is giving you this kind of storybook vibe to it, this sort of like theming of the visuals and the way it's telling its story. And I think it's also that mechanically, like it is a mechanical storytelling or storybook game where like, to give a little explanation about what I'm saying there is like, the game plays out in an actual storybook. Like whenever you change like scenes, if you go like to the right of an area like you do in Zelda and it kind of changes screens, like a literal page will flip over and you will be over there, and every now and then it kind of like goes to these big pages where you're zoomed in on the characters and kind of what's going on with the story. And so it's got all that going for it, but I think it is also like potentially made for a younger audience in that way too, that this is not just like an aesthetic choice, that this is maybe like they also want kids to be able to play this. And so I feel like if we're comparing kind of recent games, like Astrobot is a game that is kind of like childlike in its visuals, but is like really hard in parts.
Yeah.
And like pretty unforgiving in the way that it's like you get hit once and you die. So I think part of that is it's marketing to people who remember like Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter and shit like that, who are probably a little bit older and play other games and shit like that. And maybe it could be played by kids, but to me, that game feels like this is intended for people who like are maybe at least a little bit good at video games. Whereas this one feels like sort of, you know, like a Yoshi's like yarn game or like the Kirby yarn games and shit like that. It feels like one of those where it is, I think, intentionally going for a much simpler game feel as a way to market or at least to make a game for a lot wider of an audience.
Sure.
Specifically kids, I think is the thing there. And a lot of this game just feels kind of like a love letter to other video games because there's a little bit of Zelda in there. I think Link to the Past is like the most obvious connection there, but like it's also got Zelda 2 in the kind of side scrolling shit that it's doing, or Baba Is You is in there.
Okay.
Or there's like a Punch Out section and shit like that. And so I think it is just like very enthused about a lot of other kinds of video games. And rather than being a like big skill check on can you play all of those video games? Like, are you good at Zelda 2? It's just kind of a nice introductory, like, this is what Punch Out feels like, you know, like you're fighting this big creature and you beat them up and like the dodging is all the same. And when you like finally hit them and knock them out, it looks the same and stuff like that. And so to me, it all just feels like, hey, we love video games and this is the kind of like medium we're going to express that through.
Sure.
Which I like a lot. I think that that's really cool. But again, I understand the sentiment of like, this isn't exactly the same thing because it's not Fez. It's not Hyper Light Drifter. It's not that hard. And like the cool mechanic where you do kind of pop out of the storybook, that is cool. I think that that's very neat, but it's not nearly as heady as like Fez or Tunic or something like that, you know, where you're like trying to be like, what are my assumptions about this game and can I break them?
Sure.
You know? And so I think that they're just going for very different experiences. And a kind of to its credit, one of the main things that this game reminds me of is The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls, David.
Oh.
In that game is also pretty devoid of very much difficulty. Like it's not that hard of a game. Despite the fact it is very fun. And that's what it feels like to me in the sense that like, this is a very simple game. It's pretty easy. But I'm still having quite a good time with it. And I think a lot of that comes down to the tone, the sort of like animation that it has in it, kind of characters and their art are all really, really incredible. And I like seeing them like in a scene. I'm also very surprised usually and kind of delighted by the way that they choose to frame a story beat, you know, like when you come into like a cave or something like that, the page is completely black and then there's like just a little bit of light emanating out from your character and it sort of like illuminates the page as you walk through it, right? Like touches like that where it is, I think taking the like aesthetic assumptions and challenging them is actually very fun. And so I'm just kind of soaking in the good vibes.
Love it.
Yeah. I think, again, it's just that we've had such a deluge of kind of Link to the Past Zelda likes that appeal to a certain group. And this one, I think, is not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people may have assumed this game is for me when like it might not be.
Yeah.
It's a very like straightforward and simple game. And so I think if you're coming into it expecting complexity and like mechanical prowess, that's not really what's going on here.
Yeah.
I think it's more fun than it is like cool or like really intellectually satisfying in the way that like Tunic is or something like that.
Gotcha. So it's more just like an experience, a vibe, as opposed to, something that is going to challenge you as far as like a visual motor aspect is concerned or like puzzle solving aspect is concerned.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm usually not like, there's usually not that many complicated parts of the game.
Gotcha. Yeah. So do you think it was just like marketed poorly or do you think they were just trying to market it this way, but then it's maybe some people feel like it was a rug pull?
I just think we have become very used to Zelda-like games being different or being for a certain group of people. Like I feel like seeing the Yoshi Woolly world, even in the marketing, I'm like, I bet that's not for me. You know, like I bet that will not be the coolest thing I've ever played because it is like for kids. Like I think that is a feeling I get. But when I see a top-down Zelda inspired game, I'm like, I bet that one's for all the gamers. You know, whereas I think this one is like for a broader audience, and you know, you could call that maybe like, you know, dulling the experience a little bit. But I don't necessarily think that everything has to be FromSoft or like not as hard as FromSoft, but targeted targeted as closely as FromSoft.
So this is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum of FromSoft games are too hard.
Yes, this game is maybe too simple, but again, I like the Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls, which is like bump combat. You literally don't fight anything. It's just if you have enough health, you win. And this one is not that simple, but like I think that there is a similar philosophy of it is a pretty simplistic game.
Yeah, you're there for the experience as opposed to the challenge, the game, the gamification of it all.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my kind of experience with Plucky Squire so far. I think it's good, but yeah, I understand where people might have been like, wait, this is not like hitting for me in the way I was hoping it would. So yeah, that's largely all I've been playing though, David.
Wow. You've just been watching JJK.
The problem is that I've dumped like the amount of hours that I played the Plucky Squire versus the amount of hours I've played Satisfactory are disproportionate. Like I played a handful of hours of the Plucky Squire. I have played way too many hours of Satisfactory, as evidenced by the fact that I started Jujutsu Kaisen yesterday and I'm almost done with season 1 today. So
yeah, because you've been playing it while watching it while playing Satisfactory.
Correct. Yes. I've got my big old monitor and I'm doing both at the same time because I can make a factory while I watch anime.
Does your brain feel good afterwards?
It feels amazing. I feel great.
Man. And you're getting everything that's going on in JJK while playing this game?
I'd be willing to bet I'm not getting every detail, but like getting most of it. Like, yeah, I understand the story. I know what's going on. I know the stakes and like why things are happening.
It's a gistable show.
I think so. It is kind of running on vibes a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I opened up Crunchyroll and I'm like, what's it going to be? And I looked at Frieren and I'm like, absolutely not. That is not a game that you gotta
experience that.
Yeah. Cause A, it's beautiful, but B, like there's a lot of stuff happening in that I would prefer to pay attention to.
Freerun was so good.
Yeah, it's unbelievably amazing. Hey, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week, David.
Which is?
It's the outro of Jujutsu Kaisen, Lost in Paradise, featuring Aklo.
Nice. Great.
Good as hell. Whenever this comes on at the end of an episode, I look away from Satisfactory and just watch it.
Wow.
It is this like kind of like hand-drawn, almost like school book animated. It's an outro, but like God, is it cool. It's just all the characters like
they're on a subway,
jumping around.
Right?
No, this is the one where they're like dancing.
Oh,
and they're all kind of in their like what look like more regular kid outfits. Oh man, is it good. Oh, it's so much fun. The like just huge dramatic one monocolor yellow background and all the characters like dancing around and shit, and their fits all look amazing too. It's so good. Anyway, it's great. I love it. Every time I see it, I'm delighted by the whole thing.
Love it. Yeah. Love that you're into JJK now. It's a great show. It's
a very fun show. I'm having a great time with it. There's a lot of stuff going on there that I really appreciate. It seems like there's a lot of stuff happening in it that is probably over my head as far as a Westerner goes. Like, yeah, it seems the sort of like representation of maybe like old Japan clashing with new Japan in the form of Gojo, like kind of fighting against the fairly rigid higher ups that are in Kyoto. Yeah. Like I know that like there is this sort of like tension within Japan of Kyoto being this like representation of the old way of doing things versus like Tokyo being this kind of newer version of Japan. And so like if that's in there, I sort of suspect that there's plenty of shit that I'm not catching, but the stuff that I do catch is them doing a really cool punch, and man, do I love watching them do a cool punch.
Cool punch is cool.
It's really cool.
Cool punch is very cool.
Love a show that will give their moves a name for no apparent reason. Love all of that.
Yeah, very have good. To have a named move. Come on. Shonen 101.
And I'm like, I'm still sort of enjoying My Hero Academia, but like, I think that JJK takes itself like just slightly more seriously. Like, I think every now and then My Hero will like jump the shark and go like too shonen, like just a little bit overboard.
Yeah.
And
gotta go plus ultra, baby.
Yes. Yeah. And so, and it also, I think, is inheriting a certain pacing from sort of an older way of doing anime, whereas JJK feels breakneck by comparison.
Yeah. No filler. All story.
No, it's mostly all story. And all the characters are just like, great. I'm having a good time, you know?
Love it.
Not like, am I going to stand here and say that it's better than Frieren? No, absolutely not. Frieren is on another fucking level, another like stratosphere, but it's pulpy. It's fun. I'm having a good time. So what?
Do we need to play Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash when you're here?
I was wondering about that. I saw that game. I think it's quite bad from my understanding.
Excellent. Bring it on.
Yeah, true. I guess that's our whole thing, huh? David, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism?
Yes, I do. It's when you go back to levels that you visited earlier, and they're different and have evolved in some way, shape, or form.
Very satisfying. Extremely satisfying.
Yeah, Sekiro is really good at this.
Yes, yeah, where like something has changed here.
Something has changed here. Like when you go back to, like there's 2 different times in the game where you all of a sudden can't transport or travel back to Ashina Castle statues, sculptor statues, because something has changed. You have to go through the level again and like see how it's changed. The first time it's like, oh, the owl has invaded and he has all these like shinobi are there, and they have all these little gangplanks that they have put out all over the place, and you can kind of use those to traverse the castle in a different way and take different routes. And then the second time is when the interior ministry, which is just a terrifying, spooky name, is coming with like their flamethrower armored shinobi or samurai to just come and mess you up. And that also just really changes the feel of the level. And like you can go through those levels again and just like go right to where you're supposed to go. But if you like go and explore and like hit all of the statues again, you find a lot of like mini bosses, a lot of items, a lot of cool stuff that's going to help you later in the game as well, which I really appreciated. Some of the more challenging bosses I fought in this game were some of the mini bosses going back through Ashina Castle the third time, just like people you just find sitting around, like you weren't here before, now you're like an elite samurai who I have to fight, or there's a samurai and one of the 7 Ashina spears who I have to fight in this very small arena. And that fight was tough because those spears took up like a third of the arena whenever they did a sweep.
I think I know where you're talking about. That was a brutal fight.
It was in the Ashina reservoir, and it was all covered. You're all surrounded in fire. Ooh, that one was tough. And then of course, you know, getting that extra little bit of content where someone's like, oh yeah, if you go over this way, we need your help over here if you want Ashina to survive. And at the end of that, you find the hatred demon, who is a fun boss battle at the end of the game. So yeah, and that's also, you fight the hatred demon where you fought Gyobu, like the first big remembrance boss that you fight in the beginning of the game. So yeah, they're constantly evolving this area, which I think also adds to the feeling of this place is kind of under attack. Like you get like 2 or 3 different good feelings of Ashina throughout this game, where it's kind of peaceful, it's good, things are all right, and then something has kind of broke bad, and then things are just like awful. It's just like war has come to this castle. And you don't really get that experience in other FromSoft games. Like usually things have already broken bad, and you're kind of existing within the broken pieces of this world. Whereas in this one, it's in the process of breaking, but even then, it's just this one small area. Like the whole entire world isn't coming to an end. Not as dire as other spots, or FromSoft games, I should say. But I just love how it's dynamic. The world feels very alive because of it. Yeah,
totally. I feel like, in FromSoft games, it's like, it's bad, and it's been bad for like 1,000 years or something.
Exactly. It's been 3,000 years since the dragons died.
Yeah. That's true. I'm reminded of Ocarina of Time in a similar way, or even Majora's Mask in kind of a similar vibe of like daily things are changing, and so you have to kind of like focus on like, okay, what is the thing that I need to do, and like, will time progressing solve that?
Yeah.
I guess Titanfall 2 is also the like most intense version of this, where you do this sort of like time swap thing. Where it's like literally from a moment to moment going back and forth and like using that to your ability.
The Messenger,
yeah, it's totally true. That one's
Metroidvania.
Yeah. This is a good one. I like The Messenger.
That was a fun game.
Good video game. Well, sick. Do you want to move on to our main thing, David?
Yeah, let's do it. Was that the song for Lost in Paradise?
Maybe. Hey, welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the games we guessed here and gush all the things that we love about them. Let me start with this. We're playing the game called Son of a Witch.
Yes.
Suggested to us by Thuy. Thank you, Thuy.
Thuy.
I had literally never heard of this game before, David.
Me neither.
And I'm a little bit surprised about that, if I'm being real. Like, spoiler, it's a pretty good game.
Yeah.
And I feel like I am usually pretty abreast of most roguelikes at the very least. And this game also came out like around the time where like roguelikes were extra big and popular.
They just like busted onto the scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is like post Rogue Legacy and like around the time that Dead Cells is coming out, which like maybe there's just too much oxygen being taken up by Dead Cells, but like
maybe
still, I don't know. Had you heard of this? You said no.
I had never heard of this. No.
So bizarre. It also feels like a game from a different era, weirdly.
It gives me a lot of Castle Crasher vibes just because of the art style. Yeah, I know you're saying.
Wow, we really jumped ahead of ourselves. Let me hit you with hot stats, David.
Please.
Hot stats.
This one came out May 16th of 2018. This was made by the company Bigosaur, which I really like that.
It's a good name.
They, of course, made games such as Blockbuster Billy, Crypto Miner Simulator, and Windmill Kings.
Is Blockbuster Billy about a Billy who busts blocks, or is it like a Blockbuster employee whose name is Billy?
Works at a store. I knew this would be your question. I wrote down Blockbuster and I'm like, David's not going to be able to not take the bait.
I know.
I know he needs clarification.
Yeah.
It is a Billy who busts blocks.
Okay.
Is how this one is spelled.
This Billy is busted. Got it.
This Billy is busting and busted, you know?
Exactly. This Billy is currently busting. He's not going bust like Blockbuster did, but he is busting those blocks, and his name is Billy.
He is busting them. That's what I say on my LinkedIn. Blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
I have a review, the only review, in fact, on mobygames.com of Son of a Witch.
Wow.
Normally I have my pick of the litter.
One?
It's usually Joe Video. This one is not Joe Video.
They only had a single review.
One review online. This one comes to us courtesy of NintendoOnline.de, which I assume means
Deutschland.
But I don't know.
It's short for domain expansion.
Oh, wow. Hell yeah. That's what the Germans really mean.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah. I took their review, I ran it through Google Translate a number of times, one English into another, one language into another, to mangle it up real good and get an artist interpretation, which I'll read for you now, David.
Let's hear it.
The Witch's son has a lot of interesting ideas, but the fighting system itself is incredible. What a shame it's so fluid. Various weapons and systems. This is especially true if you are running with friends. Lower your expectations a bit. If your friends like it, it's worth a try. And I didn't write down what they gave it. So let's say a 6 out of 10.
Feel that score that they're giving it.
Yeah, you have to intuit the score on that one.
Because unfortunately the combat is fluid, so that takes 2 points off right there.
So strange. I had no idea what that was. I love The Witch's son has a lot of interesting ideas. Like this is being written by a grandma whose grandson is like telling them about cryptocurrency. They're like, hey, he's got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not really sure what it is.
He's just back there on the computer talking about his coins and his doges, talking about going to the moon.
We got a hodl, grandma. Christ. I can't even joke about it. It sucks so bad.
I know, it's hard. Once I said that out loud, I'm like, oh no, this is bad.
Oh, no.
This is bad.
Yeah. Hey, what is this game?
Yeah, Son of a Witch is a top-down, I guess Zelda-ish, like roguelike, where you are a son of a witch. Your mom, who is a witch, gets taken by the federal government and then thrown in jail. Mm-hmm. And now it's on to you to go and rescue her. So you can play it single player, or you can play with up to 3 other people, so 4 people total. Mm-hmm. So it's a fun little co-op game too, if you want to do that. Couch co-op as well, which is a dying thing, which you love to see. You love to see that.
Yeah.
But it is... It's a roguelike and it's an RPG and it's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different ways to play this game, but the main way that it's intended to be played, I think, is as a roguelike. So you go through, you can hack and you can slash, you can use magic. There's a bunch of different items you can pick up, like staffs that let you do different sorts of like calling down comets, shooting little pellets at enemies from afar. You can get better swords or clubs or axes, and they all work a little bit differently, have a different range, have a different speed, have a different abilities as well as you go on in the game. You can get potions, you can get little voodoo dolls that do things to people, which is fun too. Yeah. But you're pretty much going through these different levels, and then eventually you are kind of trying to find your way through this maze of different areas to find a boss, and then you beat the boss and you go on to the next area of the game. So it goes like a forest and then a castle top, and then inside the castle, and then just kind of goes from there. Yeah, you got it. Exactly. Yeah. There's a decent amount going on in this game. Yeah, I think like my first glance at it, I was not expecting it to be as kind of mechanically dense as it is. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of shit in this game. There's just like a lot of stuff. Yeah. Which again, just on kind of like a cursory glance, I'm like, I don't know if this game is going to be like that. I know. Like at the very beginning, they give you like 4 or 5 different ways to play the game. Mm-hmm. It's like, here's here's the roguelike, here's the RPG, here is PvP, right? Here is just all these sorts of different ways of playing. They give you options. I appreciate that.
Yeah, there seems like there is a lot of this game. If this is the one you buy, you can do a lot in here. I largely only played the like roguelike version just because that seemed like the version of the game that they wanted me to play. I thought it was really good. Like, again, I've been judging this game just kind of visually every time I see it on our list. And I think like unfairly.
Sure.
And I think that is largely just like that era of, you know, Flash games, I guess. Like this feels like it is a Newgrounds game a lot of the time, or at least it looks like it. That era, I think even at the time I was like, these games are sick and I love that I can play this on just like my computer for free. But like visually it doesn't stack up for me, you know, or at the time I felt that way.
Sure.
And even like Alien Hominid or Castle Crashers are all kind of in that genre where it's like really cool mechanical games. And like, I think, you know, those might not be the best examples because they both like look incredible, but it feels like it's from sort of that era or ethos. But I think I was just literally judging a book by its cover because there is a lot of fun stuff here. It's just like it happens to look like a Flash game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just artistic choice.
Yeah, for sure. To give a little bit of an explanation, it's like kind of like not chibi, but like big-headed characters most of the time.
Yeah.
And the animation all kind of just like looks like a Flash game where like every like arm is animated individually and like the legs are all animated individually. And so
arms and legs and then torso and head are just kind of static for the most part.
Yeah. You'll know what I'm talking about if you like see this game or see what it's doing. But yeah, I feel like that is kind of selling it short because I think the stuff that is really interesting about this game is the mechanics of it, the sort of like combat-y part of the game. Reminds me a lot of The Binding of Isaac, especially the way that the sorcerer plays, the one who like you're saying, just kind of like shoots little dots across the screen. That feels extremely Binding of Isaac. And especially just the fact that this is like kind of a dungeon crawly roguelike with an extreme amount of items in it. That all feels just like straight out of Binding of Isaac, which is not a bad game to be compared to. Like that game's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
And so I found myself having a pretty good time with this one. What did you think about it?
I enjoyed it. It kicked my ass the first couple of times.
Yes, yeah.
Like it is definitely. When you play it the roguelike version, it's quite hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun hack and slash. You don't have to, you're not like thinking too hard about how you're positioning yourself or like or maybe a little bit of resource management, especially with your health potions, right?
Yeah.
But it's not complex in how you interact with certain things like mechanically, but there's just a lot of different options of things you can do, right? So a lot of different weapons you can use that do different things, but they all the combat essentially works very similarly in how you position yourself and how you are expected to make your way through the game, right? So I enjoyed it. You know, it's always hard to play a roguelike when Hades exists in the world, but really I have to get my mind out of that because it's just unfair, I think, most of the time. And I think this game is not trying to do anything like Hades is doing.
No.
It's totally unique of its own style, right? And I also did dabble in the RPG of this game as well after my second or third time getting my ass kicked. And the RPG is pretty much the same as the base game. It's just, and when you die, you go back to like a checkpoint instead of just starting all the way over.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's just kind of an easier version of the main game.
Yeah.
So I did that one. I got like super far my first time. And I was like, cool. Okay, that's kind of fun. So it definitely, instead of making the game easier, they just give you an easier style of playing the game, which I kind of like as far as making it accessible for more people, which was cool. Yeah, I think a fun game design decision there. I
appreciate that they say in the roguelike version that like this is the one that we have made the game at like with the intention of you playing.
Yeah.
But that like the RPGs, they're like, hey, if you want to just like see what happens, like here's your way to do that. Which I like a lot. Like I feel like a lot of the time that used to be relegated to like you either need to get so good at this game that you can beat it, or your alternative option is to like, I don't know, plug it into a Game Shark or something like that to put some cheats on to like get infinite health or something like that.
Exactly.
And I'm glad that they just like kind of built that into the game. I've seen that happen before, especially with games with like story mode difficulty or something.
Yeah.
That it's just like, if you want to see all the shit in here, like feel free.
Just get through. But as far as like the rogue-like portion of the game goes, I did like the different randomization that you could get each playthrough, like whatever book you get in the beginning of the run, what vendors you find, like what kind of animals is this person selling today, what kind of potions do they have, what loot do you find. So each run does feel, pretty different than the last one. Not as exceptionally different as something like Hades, but different enough to make it still engaging and fun. And then you can really tell when you have like something cooking where you're just, plowing through enemies and plowing through like the first boss. And you're like, oh, wow, I really did well that time. Yeah. So yeah, I think they hit on a lot of what makes a roguelike fun and engrossing. Right. I definitely, when I had a run end, it was easy to jump right back in and I was ready to go. But then also there's new areas and they don't have the same map each time. So it keeps it fresh. It's good.
Yeah, I always really savor that feeling whenever I'm playing a roguelike where, like you're describing, it's like one part of the game was quite hard the last run, and then this time you're like, oh my God, I'm rolling over these guys right now.
Ogre Mama is nothing now. I am the Ogre Mama.
I'm the Ogre Mama. I agree. It's like, it's really satisfying to experience that. And to me, that's a sign of a good roguelike of there's enough variability in the stuff that you can do where it feels sometimes like, wow, I've gotten kind of lucky and stumbled upon something cool, but that the game also feels like, hey, if I'm just good enough, I can probably also like do pretty well here. It's not just a total crapshoot of like, did I get the good items, know? Again, I hate to compare it again, but like Hades is good at that because it almost always feels like I could probably win with most of the shit that I get in this. It's just about like, am I deciding the good stuff? Am I like making a good build, which I think is part of why that game is so miraculous. But this one still had me feeling like, okay, I've got some good items, like, but I still have to make it count by like using them well. Yeah. Which is fun. Or even like you have very limited inventory space. Like you can't hold very much. Yeah. And so a lot of the time you'll maybe come upon a better sword, but you're like, well, I haven't really been building my character as like a sword user this time. So even though this one is technically better on paper, like I am building a sorcerer. So like, therefore I need to kind of leave this.
They do make you have to make some decisions like that early on, which is, it's fun. It's good.
Yeah. And all those classes play pretty different, despite the fact like a lot of the weapons that are dropping are pretty similar. It's like, again, the kind of wizard class had me just considering much different things than, the kind of sword swinging person did.
Absolutely.
Which is cool. I like that a lot. Yeah. I found this game cool. It feels like it is a very good argument for why like roguelike mechanics are pretty good regardless of like the setting or the kind of art style of it. Yeah. Because this is still like really fun. It's still a very fun game, even if like you're not totally into exactly what the art style is.
Yeah. Or even if the combat itself is just smash A to attack or press in the direction of the attack, because there's so many other decisions that you're making in between those battles that you're kind of enjoying and feeling the differences in your power between different rooms because of the decisions you made in the last one.
Yeah, it's like Vampire Survivors took this to like an extreme where you're literally doing nothing as your like quote unquote attacks. It's only the decision making, which I think is like why that game is so cool. But like this one definitely has more like, variability in the combat, but you're right that like it's fairly simple, all things considered. Like there's no real like dodge roll or anything like that, or no guard, no really complicated like mechanical stuff other than like, I think it's much more about like just no positioning. Like you need to know where to be. That's a much more important thing of like, oh, those guys are the ones that like throw shit at me. So I need to not just like line up directly against them or, the bosses and stuff like that. Like knowing, okay, here's their attack patterns and I need to be over in the corner for this part or to make sure to dodge their like aerial attack or something.
That part of the game really reminded me more of like a side-scrolling brawler.
Yeah, totally.
Like a River City Girls or a TMNT or the Simpsons game or any of those other arcade games, because it's like you have to go up and down and then side to side, and it's just you're having to position yourself and dodge things that way. So it's kind of this little dance you have to make with the characters, and really seeing like, okay, yeah, like you said, this person's throwing stuff at me, but this person's coming at me. How can I get into the right position right now to not get hit and to be able to attack? So it's kind of like chess-like in a way in the positioning of your character there. So I guess it is a little bit more engaging than maybe I'm giving it credit for at first blush, because it's like positioning and decision making. And I guess that the positioning is a lot of decision making as well, as opposed to, because it's not fast, right? It's I wouldn't say it's slow, but it's not like it's quick. You don't have to make these decisions quickly or with, like fast hand-eye coordination. There's no,
it's not Hades. Like you don't have to dodge roll
it's like,
out of the way.
Oh, I can see this person is going to do this in like a couple seconds. I just need to step up and I need to go back. So you're having to really think ahead of time to get into where you need to be. Yeah.
It's cool. I think this game is cool. This definitely feels like an early Switch video game in the way that like Golf Story did, where it's like there's some cool mechanical stuff going on here, but like not every part of it is perfect. I feel like the people have really caught up with the Switch as far as like making that hardware sing, but this one feels like, hey, yeah, this came out in 2018. I feel what an indie game from that era kind of feels like.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like it is worth mentioning that I didn't play with somebody else with this game, and I don't think you did either.
I did not. No.
I feel like this would be a very different experience with a group of people.
Yeah, I wonder if that would make it trivial or not. Because most of the time I was doing okay by myself, but I was like, if I had 3 other people, like I feel like we could just crush in this game.
Do you think they would add more enemies though?
They could. Yeah, that might be how they sort of balance that out.
Yeah.
We should fire it up when I'm down there in a week or so here. See how it goes. Because I could see this being like a very fun, like let's all sit and play this, and like that's the thing we're doing. I mean, Castle Crashers was great for that too. It's the same kind of idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate how much they sort of like leaned on discovery in this game, of just like how many items there are, how many like the sheer amount of potions in the game that they don't really tell you what they do until you use it, which is also feels very Binding of Isaac in the sense that like all the different like skills and stuff that you get in Binding of Isaac, eventually you're like, okay, I know what like sort of build I want to do and what items I'm looking for. Kind of similar to like Slay the Spire or Balatro or something like that, where you start to see different combinations and patterns as like favorable or not.
Yeah.
And that's really fun to kind of, see like, oh, I really need to like prioritize getting that potion. And in this game, it's like sometimes it's over like a fire or something. So you have to choose like, do I take that damage to get whatever's over there? But if you know like, well, it's going to increase my like spell damage or something, and you're a sorcerer, great. Like you should probably go get that, versus like you're a warrior. It might be like, I'm going to skip it. Like that's not really going to do anything for me. I think that stuff is really, really cool. Again, like Binding of Isaac, which is good. I think I'm going to play that after this.
I've never played that one.
It's interesting. I do wonder if it's like not too old, but if it's going to feel like kind of stepping backwards in a way. Because like so much of what that game did has been like iterated upon.
Sure.
Like I feel like you and I play like first person shooters from like the middle 2000s, and every now and then I'm like, this game is fun, but like, man, there is a better version of this.
Yeah.
And I could see Binding of Isaac feeling like that. I don't feel that way, but I also wonder if that's because I like played it a little bit more when it came out. Whereas like, again, just like compared to Hades, it's like feels pretty slow and like you don't feel very powerful.
Yeah.
Which I think is the point, but still it's an experience. It also kind of feels like Spelunky to me, where it's like you really need to like learn a lot and like know what stuff is good or not. And like part of the discovery is the fun of it, and in the same way that this game is. But I don't know, it would be worth giving it a shot, because like if it's your shit, like it will give you so much stuff. Like it's just endlessly replayable.
Sure.
So, maybe you like it. Who knows?
Give it a whirl.
Again, if you played the sorcerer class in this one, like it is like that. It plays so much like that, where you're just shooting little like dots at the enemies most of the time.
I enjoy dots.
I like dots. I'm either going to play that or Dead Cells after this.
I never played Dead Cells. I don't know. It always just was visual overload for me. Whenever I would see videos of it, I'm like, I don't know what's going on at all.
I could see that. It initially looks kind of hard to parse. I will say that feeling goes away, because I know what you're talking about, but like they start you pretty slow as far as like what you're actually seeing most of the time. That it initially will not feel that overwhelming. It's just like in the same way that if you show the final level in Hades and all the shit going on in there, it's like, how am I ever going to know what to do here?
Sure.
Whereas like that's not always how it's working. I bet you would like Dead Cells quite a bit. just like sight unseen, I bet that is a game you would enjoy. There's also a lot of it now. Like there's been a ton of DLC
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I sort of suspect that one might be pretty cool if you're interested in it.
An untapped mine.
Yeah. And you like Castlevania, right?
Oh, yeah.
It feels quite a bit like
Castlevania. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just in the way that it plays and sort of the speed of it. Maybe a little faster, all things considered, but still just like the kind of like branching paths and the art style and the fighting. It's all very good.
Are they making another Castlevania game? When's the last new Castlevania game that came out?
I don't know. It's been a long time. That's by Konami, right?
Oh.
So they may not be making a new Castlevania.
Only Castlevania pachinko machines and Netflix shows. That's it.
Again, talk about like we were mentioning the sort of like Sony story of like them not loving their history all the time. But like, God, Konami is the almost the worst offender of it. Because like there is a genre named after one of the games that they own. And like there's just nothing going on there, you know?
They got nothing for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, compare that to the, I guess like relatively smaller amount of games coming out for this series, but like Metroid is like still in existence, and like Dread is like, that's a good fucking Metroidvania. That's a good game.
Yeah.
And is also like experimenting and being like, what else could this genre be? You know, is it a horror game? Maybe let's try that.
It was scary. Those Emmys were scary.
Those Emmys were very scary. And so like, I think that those two approaches are just like vastly different. And I would love to see like, what does a different Castlevania look like? Unfortunately, I sort of like don't think it would be particularly good, but like, you know, that's just a sort of pessimistic take on where Konami's at right now. They could definitely hire like a cool team and be like, just try it out, see what's going on.
Yeah.
Because like, there's not a lack of good Metroidvanias out there.
There's a lot.
I could always use one more.
Silk Song?
Man, I've just totally resigned myself to it at this point.
It's the new Half-Life 3.
It just feels like it's never going to come out. Like I would love to hear the story of that game, like once everything is out, and like maybe once they like the developers a little bit more open to talking about it. Cause like, I would not be surprised if it's like, yeah, we had it done like 2 years in, but we like didn't think it was good enough. So we like literally restarted the whole thing. Like I could easily imagine that being the case.
Yeah.
Cause there's just no rhyme or reason to like the marketing or how long it's been taking. I can't in my brain justify it logically.
How long has it been since Hollow Knight?
That was 2018, right?
Was it also 2018?
2017. In fact, February of 2017.
Wow.
So 6 years ago? Yeah. No, 7 years ago.
7.5 years ago.
Yeah. So like that is a long time for a game.
That's a while.
I also like, I hope this isn't too pessimistic, but I always get like my jimmies get a little rustled when a game starts to be in development for that long, where I'm like, have we been in development hell? Are we just like not sure where the game is going?
Cyberpunk is still fresh.
Cyberpunk, I think, is one of the cool examples where like it did go into hell for a little while, but I don't know if that was necessarily development hell. It just was like bad when it came out. It was quite buggy.
it was just in hell.
It was just in actual hell with the devil.
Yeah.
But like something like Duke Nukem Forever, or like frankly even Kingdom Hearts 3 a little bit, where it's like it just took so long, and
absolutely,
I think
Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah.
Trying to like cram in way too much into that video game. Or Final Fantasy 15. The one with the dude bros.
The dude bros.
Like there's stuff to love about that game for sure, but like I think just scope really got out of hand in that era of Square Enix, where they're just like, what if we made a gigantic video game forever?
Yeah. It's infinite video game. The Last Guardian, Starfield.
I have found an appreciation for The Last Guardian. I don't think it's like quite as bad as when I played it. Obviously, it's not in the same category as like Ico or Shadow of the Colossus, where it's like a classic. But I appreciate that one. What was the other game you mentioned just now?
Starfield?
Starfield is interesting. That's an interesting one.
That's your voice of, I have probably 40 minutes of opinion to talk about this game.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, Starfield.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot in there that I'm like, that's pretty good video game. It's a good video game.
Yeah. And now I'm looking at Starfield. I'm like, am I really going to be excited for Elder Scrolls 6?
I know. That is kind of my
Bethesda.
Do you still have the sauce? Yeah, because like the Fallouts are like okay, right? And maybe I am willing to be open to the idea that like my taste is just different than Fallout is at this point. That's okay if that's the case. But like Starfield is all right, and like there's a totally real possibility that like Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and it's like not that amazing. You know,
just reskinned Skyrim.
I mean, even that might not be that bad. You know, like it could look like ass, and if it was still like fun in the way that Skyrim is fun, I think I'm in, you know? Or even like kind of relying on those older systems that they have going on. Like, I just wonder if that still works in the modern day. Yeah. But even still, I think sort of the problems that were in Starfield just like necessarily don't exist in an Elder Scrolls game. Like part of it is being able to like walk from one place to another and like the world feeling expansive and connected in the way that Starfield kind of just didn't. And like, I think that's just the cost into business in space, but still like it felt very disconnected in a way that just like, I don't know if they could even get to that point in the Elder Scrolls, but who knows? I don't know. Like, I think it's possible that Bethesda's still kind of dragging around like a sort of a vision of video games that like maybe isn't working anymore. I don't know if I'm ready to like say that fully, but like evidence would maybe point to that being the case for their like last handful of releases. And like, I again, this is why I was so interested in Avowed, that game that's coming out that like is, oh God, I don't remember the company's name. Obsidian's take on the kind of first person, like Elder Scrolls-y vision of video games.
That's right.
Cause like, if that's good, then it's a Bethesda problem. But if that's like maybe not as interesting in the same way that a lot of these other games are a little less interesting, then suddenly I'm like, maybe it's just the game mechanics aren't ready to be in 2024 anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. And like you said, like when you go back and play a game from the mid 2000s, you realize, wow, this has really been iterated on a lot and been perfected. And what Elder Scrolls is from 13 years ago?
Skyrim is, Yeah,
Skyrim. So there's just been a lot of really good RPGs since then, and action games since then. So yeah, it's interesting to see how these big companies can keep their games feeling fresh. And I'm even interested to see what GTA 6 does. Like how is that going to feel? Who knows?
Yeah. I agree. I don't really know. And like, I'm not like a crazy GTA guy. I liked it when I was young, but like definitely feel the sort of like friction of playing that as the age that I am now.
Yeah.
And like my taste just being so different than that one was. And like, I don't love the ethos of we have to make the biggest video game of all time, you know?
Yeah.
But I will say, if anybody's going to do it, like Rockstar can. I'm just wondering if that like feels good anymore, you know?
Exactly.
Because it hasn't for a long time, right? Like the kind of like expansive idea that a lot of the like Assassin's Creed games have been using for a long time, even like Assassin's Creed itself is like, okay, maybe we strip this down a little bit. Maybe we do like a smaller game with less stuff that's more focused. Whereas it seems like GTA is going full bore into like, we want to make the everything game. And like, you shouldn't have to buy another video game. It's just this one.
They have a factory game in there too.
God. Yeah. Honestly, they might. Like, it's just such a huge video game.
They definitely could.
Yeah. So I'm also interested, like, does that work still? We've talked about this before, but I feel like a lot of the like game design ideas from the sort of mid 2000s, I'm still kind of unclear if those work still. We talked about kind of like the Diablo idea where they kind of like haven't iterated in a while.
Yeah.
There was another example we brought up in that episode, but anyway, point being,
Halo?
like Halo to a certain extent, yeah. Like there are just a lot of these like kind of franchise video games that, for better or worse, are sticking to their guns a little bit for how they make a video game. Yeah. And I think the games that really excite me and the ones that still feel very fresh are ones that are not so tied to like a series from the 2000s. So I don't know. I'm interested to see, because it could be possible that like GTA comes out and it's really fucking good. You know,
I'd be stoked. That'd be great.
I'd be stoked. I find it hard to believe that there wouldn't be some like questionable moral stuff going on in that one. Like, there's just no way it's not going to have some of that. But I wonder if the game is there enough that it could still be fun.
Yeah.
I think I'm just like, the maximalism that it brings is just not always something that I want to experience.
Exactly. Like, honestly, at this point, something that will feel fresher or more new is just like a very dense game. Just like, this game is only just like 2 or 3 blocks of area, but like, you can go in all these buildings. There's things to do everywhere. It's just concentrated. Like, could be fun. Interact with everything.
I mean, like, it's not the same thing, but like Baldur's Gate kind of gives you that vision of just like an incredibly dense video game. Like the square footage of that game is pretty big, but Larian didn't have to go as hard on that. You know?
Like Baldur's Gate itself feels like just so overwhelming. You feel like the country kid who comes to the city for the first time. You're like, this is too much stimulation for me. Too many people.
I may be a simple country gamer. I didn't have anything else. That was it.
You got anything else?
That's it.
There's not enough sheep here for me. There's too many people. Too many mind flayers here for me.
We are so far away from Son of a Witch right now.
I know, we really went down a rabbit hole there.
That's fine. We didn't actually have that many video games at the beginning, so we're just hanging out.
Are you saying we're stat padding right now?
No, not at all.
Stat padding. Let's go.
Domain expansion. A little bit of a longer episode.
Domain expansion. Go down the rabbit hole.
Talk about video games from the 2000s like every other podcast. Thank you, Thuy, for your suggestion of Son of Witch. This is a fun video game.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Hello, and welcome to the outro. It's me, Chase. If you want to interact with the podcast, you can do that at podtimism.com. You can see our email and our socials, and probably most importantly, a link to our Discord where people talk and chat. Thank you to all the Dewey heads who have been dropping your Deweys in the Discord today.
Did anybody do Louie Dewey?
Nobody did Louie Dewey, so now I
felt so bad. I was like, once we signed off, I'm like, damn, I missed Louie Dewey, and it was right there. The lead up to that one would have been, I play in the pep band. You know, I got that Louie Dewey.
Got that Louie Dewey.
Got that Louie Dewey. Anyways, continue with the outro.
Yeah, so we got a lot of good ones in there. Thank you everybody for suggesting those, or for I guess just mentioning them. Got the let me see, a Chewy Dewey lives on a farm, Mooey Dewey going for a hike, Mountain Dewey. You know, I'm not gonna ruin every one of them because there is a lot in there. So that's your call to action this week. Is go check those out. It's fun.
Hit us with your best Dewey.
Hit us with your best Dew.
Do the Dewey.
This week you can do the Dew. Mm-hmm. This one you can.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're also on a podcast network called the Worst Garbage Network, which there's other cool podcasts on there. Podcasts like Can't Let It Go, .zip, Frog of the Week, Girl Mode, Into the Aether, Paws and Claws, and I guess us. Mm-hmm. We're also there. So go give a listen to any of those. As of time of recording, AJ and I released an episode over on .zip about the tabletop RPG Lost Among the Starlit Wreckage, which was very fun. It's like a kind of duo or solo tabletop RPG about existing in maybe the last moments of somebody's life stuck in a mech, a dead mech.
Whoa.
Power went out. And so you're like either going to get rescued or not. It was very fun. AJ did a really cool job with the production of that one. And there's a little audio drama in there, you know? Did a little role playing.
Whoa.
Which is very fun. So if you're interested, give it a look. I thought that one was very good. Thank you, Scott Wilkinson, for your podcast art. It's good and cool, and I love to look at it all the time. Whenever I go to sleep, it's just above my bed, and I'm looking at it, staring.
Lovingly.
Thank you, Scout. You can check out her stuff on ko-fi.com/humblegoat if you want to check out her other stuff. Sometimes our commissions are open. I bet they're not right now, but someday they will be. Maybe. Who knows? I'm not Scout. Don't ask me. If you want to help out the show, there's a couple things you can do. One of them is reviewing it on like Spotify or Apple Podcast or recently Pocket Cast. You can also do it there. Thank you for everybody who's doing that. I've seen a handful of those come through, so appreciate you. Or you can tell a friend, if you're in a Discord server and they're like, I need so many podcasts, please help me. Then, hey, why not suggest Podtimism today? I'm not just a client. I'm the guy who makes the show. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's an infomercial now.
Yeah. I'm not the spokesman. I'm the guy who makes it. I also listen to it. That is, every now and then I'll pop in Podtimism.
Spokesman, creator, and user.
I feel like I have become I listen to the pod a lot less because I edit it. So like I don't need a third go round.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe I should, because every now and then somebody will make a reference to an episode that like we just made, and I'm like, I got nothing, dude.
No
that doesn't sound like anything I said. I don't know what that is.
You're like, it's a great joke though.
Solid joke.
Great joke.
I think that's
good
funny.
Point.
Did I say that? Did David say that? Like where did that come from?
Chavid.
Domain expansion. Chavid's Palace.
I like Chavid Chimera Garden.
There's a little bit of a threatening aura about the Chimera Garden. You're not really sure what you're going to find in there.
Yeah. What's underneath that rock? Who knows?
All I can think about is the fucking homunculus Chimera from Full Metal Alchemist.
No, don't invoke that.
That's all I got when I'm thinking about it.
Oh my God, yeah. On that note, one other sorry, are you done with the outro yet? Have we finished?
Not really, but
I'm
like
hijacking it just for a quick second because
yeah.
Once again, Kingdom Hearts 2, playing through the Pride Lands, the Lion King level. Pete in that level
oh my God,
looks like the homunculus from Full Metal Alchemist. He is terrifying. He is absolutely grotesque in that level.
Yeah, he's a really frightening dude there.
Yes, that's all. Continue.
Anyway, thank you, listener, for listening to this. We appreciate you being here. And we don't take you for granted. Yeah, you don't have to be here, but you are. So thank you. Appreciate you. David, do you have any gaming wisdom for me?
Yeah, if you see Pete from the level in Kingdom Hearts 2, Lion King level from Kingdom Hearts 2, run in the other direction as fast as you can. Don't look back, just run. Nothing good is going to happen from engaging with that creature.
I am pretty sure that the voice actor of Pete is also in Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh, who do you think he is? I didn't listen to the English voice dub.
Oh yeah, see, because I'm playing Satisfactory, I got to get that.
I was about
dub,
to say,
man.
I know you ain't doing subtitles with your playing Satisfactory.
I also frankly don't need the dub to be very good. This one is very good, but I don't need it to be very good in a shonen anime. It's fine.
He's Jogo?
Jogo, is that his name? Why can't I find him?
The disaster curse Jogo, who Gojo fights in the domain battle, showing Yuji how domains work.
Yeah, maybe this wasn't Pete. He sounds so much like Pete.
I could see that sounding like Pete.
Michael Sorich is the guy who did his voice. Not Pete. He did play Squatt from Power Rangers, though.
That's important knowledge. Important information.
I don't think I knew that there was a fictional character named Squatt.
Neither did I. But now, knowledge is power.
That's a pretty powerful domain expansion I just went through.
So if Pete from the Lion King level of Kingdom Hearts 2, Jogo, or Squatt from Power Rangers, if you see any of them, run in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good time to run away.
What does Squatt look like? Are you looking Squatt up right now?
I'm looking him in the eyes, in fact.
Uh-oh.
He looks like Bulldog Sully, like a bulldog combined with Sully from
Sully Sullenberger.
He looks like a bulldog combined with our national hero Sully Sullenberger.
Oh, from Monsters Incorporated.
Monsters Incorporated. It's full Christian name.
Yeah, dude. Monsters Incorporated. Don't give me Monsters Inc. Okay, it's Monsters Incorporated.
Please, Monsters Inc. was my father. Doesn't he look like
he does?
Sully though?
Oh, there's some vaguely sexual fan art of him I'm already finding.
Okay, hold on. Squat feet.
Feet. Is that the first thing you go for?
I know what's going on. I know how to get to what I need. I don't see the thirsty fan art. What do I need to type?
Maybe I'm just putting a lot on this picture, but there's a Pinterest pin page. My Google search gives it to me on. It's the 6th photo. If I have Squatt Power Rangers feet in my Google search
him
bar
with like a gun, he's kind of spread out a little bit.
He's giving me eyes in that picture. Do you see what I'm saying?
I don't see what you're saying.
No. He's speaking to me. He's saying some things.
I think that this is a wonderful new discovery about Squatt, David. He makes eyes at you.
He's looking into my soul.
It's like he really is. Now that I'm looking at it, he really does seem to be staring past me in a way. Mm-hmm. It's like the eyes that follow you in those trick paintings, except it's just looking at David all the time.
He's giving me one of these. There's an eyebrow cock there.
Yeah. Squatt's got Rizz.
Squatt has risen me up with that picture right there.
Squatt really said domain expansion. Rizz.
Oh.
The Rizz Palace.
The Rizz Palace. Oh my goodness. That is a strong domain expansion. It's essentially the power to make anyone like you and come over to your side. Correct?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or just give them the eyes, The
Rizzler.
All right. See you next week, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.